it's a little weird to react to, from the sense of you don't rarely see LSU celebrate that win in the fashion they did routinely historically, right? Like, that's not a traditional win that LSU usually is dancing in the locker room and has a scene like that. But when you rally from 17 on the road to win the game in the fashion that LSU did and where LSU is, that was an enormous game, an enormous win for Brian Kelly, LSU, early September, in a very hostile environment. I mean, we talked about it going into last week that, I mean, William Brice Stadium was going to be electric. It was one of the fastest selling tickets in program history. It was a huge game. Game day was there. Everything was trending in the direction for LSU to take one on the chin. And the way that the game started could not have gone any worse for LSU. I mean, I guess the only way it could have gone worse is that they would have kept the pick six on the board, right? I mean, like, there was just things early on that you could feel like it was about to collapse. The dam is about to give. You were about to be in some big, big trouble. And LSU was able to weather that and kind of find their way and start making plays on both sides of the ball. And a huge win. I mean, like, that's a huge comeback road win for LSU in September in year 3 under Brian Kelly. I mean, what does it mean for the rest of the season? I still think, I still believe that there are a lot of things that you have to keep working out. I mean, that you're going to have to keep, I think, Nussmeier showed some signs on Saturday that you don't want to see from your veteran quarterback, even though he made enough plays to win the game, made some big throws, and made some good decisions. On Saturday, some things peaked that you saw that going into the year you were hoping he was past, over. Some of the decision-making stuff. I mean, example being late in the game where he's rolling towards South Carolina's sideline and he tries to throw one to Kamorian Pimpton on the goal line. And, I mean, he throws it into double coverage and really, luckily, did not have that ball intercepted. I mean, if that ball's intercepted there, forget the pick sixes, forget the pass interference, forget the officiating, all the stuff that we've, heard in kind of the fallout of the game. That game's over. And, I think that was some of the things that you looked at that had me a little more concerned than some of the things that happened on Saturday. All in all, though, that is a great win for LSU right now, more than the record and what it means on where they're just mentally. I mean, you can see what that game, what that win meant to the locker room, and that was good to see. I mean, they've got some things they need to clean up. I know that we'll hear Brian Kelly talk about that today when he meets with the press, just like he does every single week. But first things first. That was a really good win where you got some answers. The first bright spot that I would point to would be Kaden Durham, the running back, true freshman, showed some life and some energy at a position where LSU truly needed somebody to step up. And Durham is a guy that really answered on Saturday, being the guy who can handle it. I mean, what a game for the freshman. 98 yards, a pair of scores, very impressive scores. Some of the things that he did on the touchdown runs, I think, is why he is now emerging as the top back to come out of that backfield. And look, Williams and Jackson have a skill set that, obviously can help LSU. What has been a little head scratching on watching them play here early on this season is that they don't seem to find the daylight. They don't get to the open space. I mean, even Josh Williams on that touchdown late in the game, I mean, he runs right into the back of the offensive line and kind of rolls into the end zone. Look, you get the points. I'm not trying to complain about it, but I mean, there's a huge hole of space to the left side of it. And for whatever The reason is right now, Kaden Durham is seeing that better than any of them. And he's getting to that space, and he's making plays. And to see what he did on Saturday, LSU had to have it. They got it at the right time from Durham, and that was a big spot for the freshman. I mean, there was a good moment in the locker room afterwards that was caught by the LSU content team of Brian Kelly giving the game ball to Kaden Durham after the game, and that was a big moment for the rookie, right, for the way that he was able to step up there on the road. That I thought was a huge bright spot. I thought that the front seven, LSU defensively played, really well once they kind of got their feet to them. I love to see some of the moves that the defensive staff made last week going into the game, whether it was Harold Perkins at the star, Whit Weeks starting in the middle, Deshaun Spears starting at safety. I mean, look, they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to get the guys out there that are going to make the plays. And I think in doing that, you got one of your better performances from the defense that you can build off of. Again, look, this is not going to be the 85 Bears. It's not going to be the 03 LSU defense. It's not even going to be the 2019 defense. But you got to find wins where you can get them with this group. And I thought in spots, and especially in big spots on Saturday, the defense, specifically the front seven, made some plays.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like you said, this was a game that LSU had to win, partly because of the way the schedule kind of stacks up. If LSU's able to get this win, you have UCLA, South Alabama at home, and then a bye week ahead of the biggest game of your season against Ole Miss, who's going to be a top 5 team. And then they were able to answer some questions. You found a running game, but that front seven, stepped up all game. Like the weathering of the storm in the first quarter was by your defense. They were able to make plays. They got pressure on Sellers on that Zy Alexander interception that just made a bad decision. And they continued to make plays when they needed them. There was a few, those two bad home run plays that South Carolina was able to hit with the Sanders run and the Sellers run. And so if you're able to clean that up, that takes away 2 touchdowns and like 141 yards from the rushing attack. And so it's a whole different ball game. So if you can tweak a few things, make sure the guys are in the right spots, they're good enough. I mean, this defense is good enough to continue to allow you to win football games.
I agree. Braden Swinson was a huge bright spot.
Yes.
On Saturday. I mean, his performance, playing with, a lot on his mind.
Right.
To come out there and get the performance of, that Swinson was able to give was another bright spot, right? I mean, I think that there were some signs, like we said, from the defense that make you look very, hopeful into the future of what could possibly be. I think, first things first, they got to get some things, really answered on offense. Again, I think they come out of the third game and you still are yet to really create who you are from an identity standpoint. I think they're still kind of going through this identity crisis. I mean, there were times, again, on Saturday where you could have gotten a yard, and you just couldn't get it. And, this offensive line, for as much as we've hyped, for as much as we've talked about, them being the bright spot and really the centerpiece of the team, and it still feels like they should be, they were confused. They were out of it in that first quarter on Saturday.
Yeah, they got punched in the face.
I mean, Kennard.
That's what was so shocking was Will Campbell pretty much struggled the entire game. Like, obviously, you can look at the first quarter where it felt like LSU's offense was just, it felt like they were getting the fight taken to them, and you never really countered back. Once they settled into the football game, that was the one spot that felt a little concerning. I knew that they were going to get some wins along the defensive front, but to see it consistently happen like that, I don't know how much you take away from South Carolina's defensive line is that good, or maybe we overrated LSU's offensive line because it continues to look like that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think more the latter. When I have a lot of respect for South Carolina's defense.
Yeah,
especially up front. I think that group is going to be, they're going to be tough as the season goes on. But when presented with the question on whether or not you're more impressed with South Carolina's defensive line or more discouraged by LSU's offensive line, I would say that, it would be more discouragement because of just the expectation. And maybe it was overhyped. Maybe it was too much going into the season. I still trying to find where the overhype is. I mean, this group feels like it should be dominant. I mean, this group feels like it should be able to take games over and really win the game when it's time to put the game away for you. And that has, through the first 3 weeks, been the part of LSU that has been kind of the most consistent. When you talk about the storylines, is that the offensive line has struggled. And that is something I definitely did not see coming when you talk about the what could be of LSU football in 2024. I mean, a month ago, I thought for sure that the LSU offensive line was going to be a strong suit. A month in, I'm not so sure where they really stack up, especially going into the teeth of SEC play here coming up in a few weeks. So, I think, like I said, you leave South Carolina mentally very, very. You cross a hurdle with that type of win. 17-point comeback on the road, hostile environment, a lot of things you got to deal with, overcome some special teams woes, block punt, miss PAT, things that really can cost you, on the road if you're not going to execute, and you're able to overcome all of that, and get the win. There's still some things like going into October because, UCLA is as bad as I've ever seen UCLA. I can't, I'm sure UCLA might have had worse teams than this. I don't remember them being as bad as they are coming in here on Saturday. So LSU should be able, really to kind of continue to get themselves right going into October. Then you've got South Alabama where, again, should win the game. And then it gets, really real, where every single week you're going to be into a death match. And, the first one off the top might be the scariest one in Ole Miss coming in here on October 12th, where if you're not ready to play, you can already sense that Kiffin's looking at it. You can already feel that he's coming in here on the 12th to make a statement. He feels like if he's got a good team, he'll find out. And they had some things kind of rear up at Wake Forest this weekend from an offensive line standpoint that I don't think that, that they saw coming early on. So, all SEC teams are working on things, but, I think LSU definitely has their workload cut out for them to get ready for October. But all in all, finding Kaden Durham, winning on the road, battling back from 17, doing it in that environment. They were on the hedges with 4 or 5 minutes left to play. Like they were gonna rush the field. That is like an added piece of pressure, like looking around, like do not let these cats run and rush the field. So just mentally, I thought that was big for LSU in the sense of being able to get over that.
I thought they would still, like, when you look at how the game started, obviously 17-0, but I think the offense not being able to get going, which was crazy. They go, obviously South Carolina, he deferred to start the game, which crazy. Brian Kelly doesn't defer.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, all right, we're making progress over here. 7 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. Like, maybe we should have accepted the ball. But regardless, the one thing that concerned me is that LSU went 3 plays, 9 yards punt, 6 plays, 13 yards punt, 4 plays, 15 yards punt. And if you're LSU, like that's kind of been your calling card the last couple of years. Is offensively you're going to be able to get something going. But credit to Joe Sloan and the offense for figuring something out, because then you go. After you went punt, you go touchdown, field goal, touchdown to end the first quarter. Then you get the non-play 74-yard drive that ends in downs, but you drive it all the way to the 1-yard line. So the offense clearly got going, and I think probably Kaden Durham was a big factor in that. But in those, they kind of finally play a little bit of complementary football because after that turnover on downs, you get 3 plays, 5 yards, South Carolina punts. LSU, 5 yards, 45 yards, 5 plays, 45 yards, touchdown. South Carolina, 3 plays, negative 4 yards, punt. LSU, 10 plays, 80 yards, touchdown. And so you saw the complementary football that LSU was able to play, and when they did that, they looked like a team that you could spot somebody 17 points on the road and come back and win.
Yeah.
That was the most encouraging part.
It was. And like I said, there were some things that you look at on Saturday where you take away and you say, okay, like build on this, grow on this, and see if you can't find your way. There's some things that you really got to continue to smoke out that you got to make sure cannot happen down the line. I mean, you can't have your veteran quarterback throwing the ball up for grabs on the goal line late in the game with opportunities to win. I mean, it just can't. That cannot, because
what happened?
You got let out of jail there
for
free. I mean, forget the pick six, forget the blind block, forget all that stuff. If that play, I mean, if you make that play in the SEC 9 times out of 10, that's going to be intercepted. You throw the ball into double coverage on the goal line and just float it up. The fact that ball hit the ground is when I looked, I said, LSU's going to win. Like, they just caught a break, because they caught the break. You know, I mean, that doesn't happen. The football gods are on their side. And, I mean, some of those things just can't happen. It just can't happen.
And that's where you continue to give Nussmeier opportunities like that. He makes one wrong decision.
Right.
You're giving him 40 opportunities. He made one wrong decision.
Absolutely.
And, I guess 2 because you got the drop. But the initial interception, that was a pick 6. He just misread the defense and threw it right to him.
Right.
And then that's 6 points going the other way, and that would have been your ball game. It's a totally different story of what we're talking about on a Monday.
Yeah. Stephen Miller asks about the personnel and about what's going on. And you saw it on inside of the goal line on Saturday. They put Gabe Relaford in as a fullback, and they also had him on the end line.
Yeah.
They had him as kind of running Mac Markway's position.
Right.
And, people are asking, where's Trey'Dez Green? Where's Kamorian Pimpton? I think they just tip personnel too much. I mean, they've tried to play Pimpton early on, and against the USC in run situations, he was exposed, especially tight into the goal line. They couldn't have him in there. Trey'Dez Green's a freshman. Not somebody that was really a blocker. Just started playing football a couple of years ago. The physical part of the game is really something that, you gotta kind of adjust to. So you can't have those guys in there in run situations. Relaford seems like he's now the guy that they have said, let's get him on the field and become more physical on the end line. And they even went into like a T formation, like a 3-back set,
a full house
in the like the 80s style football on the goal line, and Relaford was back there then. So I mean, they're looking for the Mac Markway transfer is going to be something that we don't talk about a lot, but really and truly they were not prepared for and has really hurt them. Really, it's not. I guess hurt them, but it's limited to what they can do.
They had definitely had packages where he was playing a lot, and he was practicing like a ton with the first team. Where it's like, okay, this is the second. If they want to do 2 tight end formations, it was going to be Mac Markway and Mason Taylor.
Yeah,
and now they're kind of scrambling because that's part of their game plan, and they're just trying to figure out who can run it. If you put a defensive tackle out there and Bo Bordelon out there, you're clearly searching for something because the red zone thing is in their head.
It is.
If you're getting to
it is.
Whatever, 3 backs in the full house on the goal line, and trying to lead with the defensive end.
I mean,
what else can you try?
Is it Vince Lombardi calling plays over here?
Run the daylight.
I mean, get a seal here.
And a seal here.
I mean, get in the alley. I mean,
But that's what I mean. It was, if it would have worked, great, because I appreciate them trying some new things instead of just running into a wall.
Zone read every time.
But it's disconcerting that this is where we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here when you're looking for plays on the goal line.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
And when they got inside the 5, you feel it.
Yeah,
you're like, oh,
everybody tenses up.
Kick it.
That last touchdown on what was it? Third and goal from the 2 on the Williams touchdown.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was
was a cathartic release.
Yeah, it got hairy.
Grinding your teeth a little bit
for sure.
Right where we want them.
Remember
first.